That's not a real word, but that's the word we're using today. Okay, right in the middle of our paper, we're going to come in and we're going to put just a little bump like that. It's like an upside down U or V kind of spread out. And I don't want it to be perfectly round. I'm getting a little bit of a narrow top on it. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to come back up and bring it down, and I'm going to come over here, come up, bring it down. It's kind of like a big W now. That's really all it is. Don't draw this too dark, just dark enough so you can see where it's at. And all we're doing is establishing a direction and kind of a form of what we're going to end up drawing, how we're going to end up drawing this ghost. So I want to put a body on it. This is where my hood's going to go. This is where the arms are going to come off of. So I'm just going to follow around here. Put a light guideline coming out. Just kind of curving off to the right in this case. And basically, this is just a big, I'm doing it lightly though, because a lot of that's going to get erased. If you look at it, if I turn it upside down, it's like just a big teardrop shape is really all it is. Big, elongated teardrop shape. So don't overthink it. Okay, once we have that teardrop shape, then we're going to actually extend these arms out a little bit. I'm going to come out here and just bring that up over here like that, and this down over here, and I just swing it out at the bottom. Almost like a slippery slide, the old-fashioned kind that you come down and it levels out a little bit at the bottom. That's all we're doing. Some of you are like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I've never been on one. Just trust me, they used to exist. So what we're going to do at first is just kind of outline where our ghosts are going to go. Okay, our next ghost, we're just going to outline, get started. It's going to be a little bit bigger one. We're just going to make an S shape. I'm going to come underneath this ghost, come out, and then bring it back over in an S shape. So I'm going to start right here, come near that wing, and come back out like that. And I'm just making a light, stretched out letter S. This part stretched out more than the top. There's a little more curve at the top. And actually, right here at the top, I'm going to stretch that up a little higher, a little more of a stretch. Take some of the bend out of that and bring it up a little higher on my paper like that. Sorry about that. Just looked and saw, well, I'm not going to have room to put what I want on here, so I had to make it just a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to turn my paper upside down because I need to make the body on this, and it's easier for my hand to go this way. So I'm just going to come down here. There's a light line. Get slightly wider. Now I want to parallel the line that I've just drawn, so it's come around, it's going to curve right there, just like that. And now I've got a big S shape on there. Make sure you're careful how you say that. What'd you draw today? Oh, we did a big S drawing in art class. Everybody's like, what? Sound like you're from the South. All right, so we have that one on there now. It's just parallel lines. This one goes this way and this one goes this way, and all we did is connect it at the top. Gave it a little bit of volume in the middle. Put the arm on this. I'm going to come down this, curve around, and just bring it up and over. I want some space between here and here because I've got to have the arm hanging down over here. Then the other arm I'm going to make shorter and just coming down like that, more of an extreme angle. Just want to make sure it fits on the paper. All right, then we're going to put our last one on here, and this is just for a sense of balance. He's going to come along this way. We're going to make an S shape, and he's going to kind of come along this way on this side. But I'm going to bring him fairly close to this right here. It's going to be the top where the head hooks around right here, and then I'm just going to bring that down underneath. I'll come back this way, connect it all up, kind of like that. I have that one on it. We haven't done the arms yet. When we're putting these arms on here, we're just putting the top of the arm on there. We're not putting the bottom half yet. So on this one, we're going to kind of come right here, and we're going to bring it down here. So we're going to come down the head a little ways, about where the shoulder would be, and just bring that arm off this way. And this one, we're just going to bring off this way and make it shorter. This one I might even make just a little bit longer so I can make that one just a little bit. Okay, the last thing we're going to do before we start adding details is we're just going to kind of create where the opening for the head's going to come in here. This one I'm going to have this rope kind of come around, and I'm just going to make a teardrop shape right there. This is where the rope comes around, creates the hood, just a teardrop right there. Each one of these will be a little bit different. This one has a pretty rounded off head, so that when I go to do these two, this one's head's a little different shape. I'm just going to do a line that parallels whatever I've done for my upper line and just bring it down. Put an opening on that, so this is a shape similar to that one. And then when I come over here, I'm going to parallel that line and make a shape similar to that one. This one got a little too far this way. I'm going to bring it over just a little bit. I want it a little thicker behind it. Okay. And for now, we're not going to put faces in these, okay? We're just putting an opening for where the face would go. All right, let's go back to our middle ones. Anybody need any more time? Because I'm moving right along. Just give me a thumbs up when you're ready, okay? I'll give you a second. I get kind of excited about these because they're fun to draw. Sometimes I get going a little too fast, so I apologize. You bet. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the center one. I'm going to put a pair of hands on this. We're not going to get too complex with this. So all I'm going to do at first is I'm following this line out, and then I'm just going to follow it out and just bring it up and hook it off the end, just like that. Put a little hook on. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to bring it up and hook, just like that. That's all I'm doing on that. Don't like panic and go, oh, we're drawing hands and fingers. Yes, we are, but we're going to keep them really simple. That's like a longer finger. And then we're going to put the thumb on it by coming the opposite way. We're going to come back a little way, so think in terms of finger, top of hand, thumb. And we're just going to hook one going the other way. We want to make sure it's shorter, not as long, because it's a thumb. So a thumb is not going to be as long as your fingers. It's about half the length of your fingers. Turn this way just because it's easier for me to see. I'm going to put another finger coming off of here, just a little closer, another one here, and then a little short one there. And it's just kind of like they're falling over is all, and they're all kind of a hook shape. However, they hook less as they go back, okay? Some have a hard bend, some just have a little. As we go back towards the little finger, it's not bent quite as much. On this side, I'm going to go a little bit different direction so they don't look exactly the same. I'm going to bring one out and hook it down, another one down here, and then maybe another one up high. I'll hold that closer. So I'm going down, not really hooking so much. Got that one hooked back and that one. These are reaching down further, and I think it's a little long, but it doesn't really matter because it's a ghost. Things are going to be distorted a little bit. Okay, now when drawing these fingers, position is just, it's kind of a silly position on these things. It's just the idea they got a thumb and 4 fingers. The important thing is your finger, if you look at your finger, it starts off wide. Your finger starts off wide here, and then it's narrower at this end. It's the same thing on these. We're going to start off wider here, narrow here. So I'm just going to have that point and then just bring it out slightly. I'll hold that up really close to the camera so you can see what I've done. I've just made it slightly wider, and I'm just going to fill it in. I'll go to the next finger, make it slightly wider, fill it in. Come around this one. That's what I'm going to do with each one of these fingers. I want it to come to a point and then slightly wider when it gets to the base of the hand. Even the thumb, same thing. So when I'm finished, they all have little points on them. They all get wider as you get towards the hand. And then we'll make one slight alteration, and that hand will be done for the most part. thing I'm going to do now is just thicken this part in a little bit between the thumb and this finger. I'm just going to bring that in and fill that in a little bit. And that's just to create the hand part, like this part of your hand. All I'm doing is coming in just thickening that center part right there, so there's a little bit of mass or volume right there. So it's not the same width as all the fingers. So after you finish that side, I'm going to come over here and do the same thing over here. I'm going to come over here and do this thumb, a little bit narrow, wider, narrow, wider. Oops, messed that one up, so I'll fix it. So I did the same thing on that hand as I did on the other hands, just fingers in a slightly different position. I have not put the top of the hand on it yet, that's why it's still skinny through there. Just kind of filling them in at this point. Hold it up closer, you can see what they look like. Now that I have that all filled in, I will come along my thumb and join it from here to here, a little bit between those two fingers, and now I have more of a top of a hand instead of just a little skinny line connecting the thumb and fingers. So you got to kind of envision that in your head just a little bit. Okay, what does this look like? How's that going to appear on there? We're going to put two hands on this one. But this one down here, we're actually not going to necessarily put hands on. We'll just kind of let the claws hang down. So this is what I'm talking about. On this one, I'm not going to draw hands. I'm just going to show you two different ways of doing things. This middle one, of course, has hands, and this one is going to have hands similar to that on this one. So let's go ahead and do this one next. Just going to take this line right here. I'm going to curve it up slightly and just bring it on back to here. That's actually going to be my thumb. So I just extended it down just a little bit so that when I do my first finger, it's going to kind of come up and curl that way. Okay. So I have a thumb going down and then a long finger. I'm going to come along that same line and make another long finger. And another one's a little bit shorter. And that's all I'm going to put on that one. I'm not going to put 4 on there. We'll just say a couple of them are lining up so you can't see all, whoops, can't see all 5 fingers. Get it together, Adams. There we are. Like we did before. Create a point, get wider as you move towards the base. If I decide as I'm going that I want to add the 4th finger, I have the option. it's all filled in. I just need to put the hand part on after it's filled in. So for the hand part, it comes off the thumb here, and I'm just going to bring that down in here and curve that around. Make that a little thicker. I'll hold that up so you can see what I've done. The hands are probably the most complex thing on the whole darn drawing. And honestly, as long as they're close, as long as you got thumb and fingers and they go kind of opposite of each other, thumb going this way, fingers going off that way, you're going to be fine. Okay? These are really loosely drawn hands. So I'm going to do this one a little different down here. I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to hook a finger coming in back this way, just like a fish hook, right there on the bottom. And the thumb I'm going to just bring off that way. The next finger's going to come around a little bit, the next finger, and then just the last finger. So this hand is basically just hanging down. And just think in terms of forefinger, middle finger, ring finger, and then of course your pinky's going to be shorter, so you don't want it to be longer than your other fingers. Again, once we have them on there, we just go ahead and fill them in. Got them filled in, and then the only thing left to do is actually put that hand volume on there, and I'll come from off the thumb again. It's on there, it's all filled in, so I got a top of a hand and then each finger and the thumb coming off that way. I think I'm going to make these just a little longer, a little more of a point. Okay, I'll move this back up now so we can see what we're doing. So we got 4 little hands. Like I say, if they're not perfect, that's okay. It's a ghost. It's dead. They're probably not perfect. They might even be broken for all I know. So it's okay. Does anybody need any more time on the hands before I move into the arms and body? If I don't see a hand, then I just move ahead. So give me a fair warning if you need more time. Okay, what we're going to do next, it's actually a drawing technique. It's called control scribble. We are going to scribble, but we're kind of controlling the direction of where these scribbles are going to go. So we'll start with the arm. I'll start lightly at first. I want these to kind of look like wings. So I'm going to come along here, and I'm just lightly scribbling at first to kind of just establish where that wing's going to go. Okay? And I want a direction on it. So when I do that, it's just kind of giving me a direction. Come over here, I'm going to do the same thing. Thinking in terms of wings, it changes direction a little bit as you get out towards this end. So it's kind of going this way and then up and then over. Controlled scribble at this point. And everything's similar in length, and it's just kind of a zigzag line going back and forth. It's just to give me a little bit of direction. We're going to develop that out here in just a minute. I'll zoom in on this guy's body. Instead of going counter to it, we're just going to go along, so the curve of the body goes this way. So we're just going to put some long scribbles that go in the same direction as the body. Don't draw them out this way. That's counter to what, in theory, if you go this way, that's counter to the line. Okay, you want to follow the line. Kind of have to follow the law of gravity here a little bit. On this side, they're going to be a little bit shorter because they're on the inside of the bend. It's just a wrinkle that comes down, or just a zigzag line. But I'm not doing these dark right now. It's just to give me direction so I don't do something spastic like come along here and put them on here counter to the flow. And when I say counter to the flow, this is what I mean. This is the direction of my body on here with the little hood there. If I'm coming on here and I'm going like this, or I'm going like this, okay, or I come down here like this, and then I come here like this, that's all counter to the flow of my line that I already put on there. If I have my arm coming on here like this, and I come out here and I go this way on it, okay, it looks weird because it's going counter to the flow of our original line. Okay. Just kind of trying to follow how it would look if it's hanging down off this entity that we're drawing. Okay. So that just gives us our light outline. Now is where it gets more interesting. Now we're going to darken things a little bit, and we're going to change things up. So I want some of these to be long, some of these to be shorter. I'm just kind of following where I drew before, putting some points on here. Just going a little bit darker, still scribbling. Maybe make a little longer one there, maybe one in between. I can vary it as I go. These are a little bit longer, and they get wider as I move up, narrow as I move down. Make a big one here. The key to this is breaking up this edge. I don't want it to all be the same length by any means. Some shorter, some longer, some in between. Just make sure it kind of has a flow to it, kind of like water would flow. You don't want everything to be the same length. So now I've got all that, well, I'll give you guys a second to get that on there. And then we're going to do some filling in. We'll come back to this later. While it is scribble, it is a controlled scribble, literally. Okay, so coming across here, I want to fill some of this in, but not right here at that very top edge. So all I'm doing is with my pencil, I'm just kind of coloring along here, filling everything in and in between. Kind of connecting everything. It's kind of a medium dark. Quite frankly, I could leave it at that, and it still looks kind of cool. So what we did right here, we're going to come over here on this side and do the same thing. So I'm going to come over here, going from wide to narrow, varying the sizes. After I've got that established, do the same thing where we just colored it in and kind of brought it all together and leaving a little bit of space at the top edge. Guys a minute to get caught up with that. As I look up there, it looks like I'm a little darker on this side than this side, so I'll darken some of these up so they're about the same. I don't necessarily want to go black with this, but I do want it, a medium dark. Medium dark or a dark medium, whichever way you want to put that. But I don't want it black. It looks kind of black up there, but don't go dark, super dark black. Okay, and then we're going to go down the side of the body. We're going to do the same thing. Kind of fill these in. Bring it into the body. Make sure you're varying the lengths on it. Don't have it all the same length. And the reason we vary the length is if everything looks the same, like you just went to the barber and cut off everything evenly, it's really kind of boring. Coming up the right side of it, they're not quite as prominent as the ones on the left side because it's the inside of the bend. And I'm going to extend these up into the body a little bit. that fold down and just let it blend right in. Think in terms of water. How's water going to flow if it comes down? Don't do anything that would be counter to how water would flow off of that. Does anybody need more time on the body or the arms? Okay, I'll just wait. The reason these ghosts are fun is there's not hard, fast rules except for make sure things flow like water and give it a basic shape of a teardrop with arms. It's basically about all there is to it. I mean, how the fingers are positioned, how the cloth hangs off, no two are going to be the same. So it's not an exact science on these. There's a lot of freedom for creativity and variation on it, like a whole lot of freedom. So we're going to come around this side, and we got this line kind of coming down. I'm just going to bring a line that parallels it and comes down, and then one more that kind of comes down and parallels that one, and then I'm going to bring one that comes around this way, and maybe one more shorter one. Okay, so I'm just following this line here, just bringing it around. These are like wrinkles. I'll darken them in just a little bit here in a second. So if you see this line, you just follow it. And then we're going to make this just a little bit darker and gets narrow as it gets down here. I'm going to do the same thing here. Get a little bit darker, narrow, let it just flow right into this. And just let that flow into that. So again, we're thinking like water. Flows into this, flows in, and then it changes directions here, so it's got to flow in here like that. lot of this will come together when we start to smear it. So if we don't get it quite perfect, some of it will disappear anyway. Inside the opening where the face is going to go, come in and color this all in just a medium black, as even as you can make it for right now. A medium black, a medium gray for right now. Try and keep it as even as you can get it without any white showing through. Got a medium gray on it, and then the top half, I'm going to go as dark as I can get my pencil to go. Going really dark up here. And I'm going to go just a little bit dark on the outer edge on the bottom. What's going to happen is when I soften this and smear it, that will all blend together. Right now, as you can see, as I hold that up close, you can clearly see the top half's darker, then a little darker along the edges. Now normally I tell you to gradually blend black into the medium gray so there's not an edge there. But when we smear it with a Kleenex, it's kind of going to disappear anyway, so don't have to worry about it on this one. Now, what we could do, don't know that I'm going to do it, what we could do is get this one set up as much as this one and this one set up as much as this one, and then kind of complete them all at the same time. But what I think I'm going to do is complete this one to show you the idea, and then we'll move through these two just so you can kind of see where we're going with it and kind of my method to my madness, so to speak, because it gets way more fun from this point on. So that when we get to this one and this one, you kind of know where you're going, so it's not quite as tedious because you're like, okay, this is going to be kind of cool and it's going to be kind of fun when we get there. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to come in here real quick. This upper part right here on the hood, I'm going to color in a light gray so it has some volume to it and it's not white. And then we're going to start to have a little fun with this. Going all the way around the hood, getting a kind of a nice light gray. I don't even have to be careful because when I'm going through the opening on the face, it's darker than when I'm coloring this, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so I got a nice light gray on the top, and then we'll have some fun. I'll give you just a second to get that colored in. And the next couple of steps is not the time to ask to go use the bathroom because it's kind of what we've been working towards this whole time. So if you got to go, cross your legs and bear it, you'll be all right. Just tough it out. All right, so now we're going to take our Kleenex or our paper towel or whatever it is we have, fold it a few times so that we can get into little narrow places. So I've got that folded up. I'm going to fold it one more time so I got a little teeny point right here now. I'm going to use this to get around, come right down here. I'm going to use this to get around the top of my head here. I'm just going to smooth it out. And if you go outside your lines a little bit, it's perfectly okay. This is supposed to be kind of a blurry image anyway. Right now all we're doing is smoothing that out, and then I'm going to do the same thing inside the face opening. Pressing just a little harder in there. And see, when I finish that, that hard line that was in there kind of goes away. Come around this outer edge a little bit. want that all softened up in there. If I hold that up close, you can see I've come outside my lines a little bit. In fact, I'm going to intentionally come outside just a little bit out in here. I may erase some of that later. I don't know if I want quite that much out, but that's okay. So it's kind of a blurry edge. It's all right. Now the really fun part. We're going to come over here where the arm extends down, and we're going to just start by just going and pulling away, down, away from what we've drawn on there, kind of following the direction of some of these. Just pulling down and away. And then I'll come in and rub really hard to kind of blend it together. I'm just going to leave that little teeny tiny bit of light at the top end. Now I'm pushing a lot harder. I'm going to go all the way around the body like that too. I'm going to bring it out, intentionally going past my edges, bringing it out. Kind of blend this all together here, out, 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 just like that. And it goes from being really dark to being actually quite light at this point. Come over here, do the same thing. We're rubbing it, but it's kind of a controlled mess that we're making. Okay, we got him softened up quite a bit. Then I'm going to come back with my pencil on some of these that I can see. I'm going to make them just a little bit darker again. Kind of blend it in. I don't want to go too crazy with that. Then I'm going to come back over and just soften it slightly. I'm just going to barely touch it, just softening it just a little bit. I want to be able to see them, but not have them just totally jump off the page. Do the same thing over here. Just try and give it a little bit of definition, but not a ton. I'm not pressing very hard right now. Come along the edge of the body and do a few. Again, the important thing to remember is afterwards, just lightly come over and soften them just a little bit. Just enough to blend it in. We're not going to press very hard this time. Just enough to just soften it so it looks similar in texture to what we already had on there, but just slightly darker. So it should look kind of like a smeary mess with kind of an image in the center. Now this is the part that I really enjoy, because now we start to give it some dimension. I don't know why that just happened. We'll see here. We're back. All right. Now with our eraser, we're going to actually draw with our eraser. I'm going to come in just on that inside edge right next to the opening. I'm going to put a little highlight right there, and then I'm going to bring a little highlight that comes down off of this edge. So when I do that, I'm just drawing with my eraser and giving it just a little lighter edge. I goofed up and went inside my hood here, so I'll just smear that back out. I do want it along that edge of that cloth right there. Make it a little bit more prominent so you can see it a little bit better. So I can see that pretty clear. And then on these wrinkles, I'm going to come along and put a little bit of a line comes down here, and a little bit of line comes down here. You bet. All right. Live and learn. There you go. All right. And then I'm going to come over here on this wrinkle, bring it down, this wrinkle, bring it down, and we're literally drawing with our eraser. Now it gives it some dimension, which is kind of cool, because first there was nothing there, and now definitely looks like there's an edge and some wrinkles. So my eraser shavings off. Okay, now the really fun part. We're going to put dimension on the rest of the body, and the way to do this is we're going to go this way and that way with our eraser. And we lift it up at the end. So if I'm pressing down here, I lift it up, and when I lift it up, it puts a point on the end of my eraser. I come over here. That's using the very tip of my eraser, this part here. If I turn it a little bit at an angle, I get a wider erase, okay? I want to vary that. I want some to be skinny. I want some to be wider. And I'm following the same flow as what my lines are. Some are going up, some are going down, but I lift at the end either way. A little wider one, I'll press a little harder. I want it to go right out into that misty stuff. Just make sure you're following the flow as you go around. Do not go counter to the flow that you've already established with your lines. So as I wipe that off, everything's kind of going with the flow. Try not to crisscross your lines very much. You want it all kind of flowing in the same direction. And we're going to do the same thing on the arms. Some go in, some go down. Just follow your flow that you've already established. Also vary the length so everything's not the exact same length. Press harder on some, lighter on others. Just make sure you're lifting up at the end, whatever you do. one side, and I'll come over here and do the other. As you do this more, you'll get kind of a feel for where you should do wider ones and skinnier ones. Press harder, press lighter. You'll kind of get the hang of it. And after you've done that, you probably have a bunch of eraser shavings on your paper. You just need to kind of wipe them off. And then I'm going to take my Kleenex and lightly just kind of come over and just knock it back just a little bit. It's kind of in the upper part of those arms. Not too much. And leave it. We have a pretty good ghost when we're done. Bring it down here. And it's really not that hard. Basically, you're drawing with an eraser at this point, trying to reestablish all those, the flow of which way your controlled scribble went. Just making it a little more intentional, prominent. When you're done, you have yourself a little ghost. Actually looks kind of cool. And it didn't hopefully fry any brain cells doing it. Just like I say, there's a ton of freedom for how you create this. It doesn't have to be super controlled. So what I'm going to have you do, once that one's done, the same thing that we did before, we're going to just kind of come over here, put a zigzag line that kind of comes up. It's going to follow the body contour first, and then it's going to kind of come around and go this direction as it moves up towards the end of the arm. It's going to be a little longer down here. If it goes in behind your other ghost, that's fine. I'm just going to come through and kind of vary the length on some of these, so it's not the same. I'm going to come along the body. Now the body is going to go out that way, but then it's going to curve this way, which is going to curve and change the direction of my controlled scribble coming down here. When I come off of here, it's going to go off this way. It's going to be a big tall ghost. Curve around that way. We follow the flow. So here it goes this way, and then it changes direction right here. And with this one, it's going to come down off of here and flow, and then these are going to actually go two different directions. This way and this way, kind of form a V shape in here because it's got a hard bend in it. So hopefully that makes some sense to you. So I'll just kind of leave it up there so you can kind of see which way some of these are going. Again, it's water. Here it's going to converge because we got such a hard bend. Here it's spread out, and here it follows the flow on around. So if you didn't quite finish this little dude in the center, you're going to have some time here in a minute. I'm just trying to get these lines on here so it's established. So we can come over here and do this one too before the bell rings. We're going to make it. Does anybody need more time with getting the controlled scribble on this one? Okay, and see hands, so we're going to come over here and do this one over here. With this one, we're going to come around this way on the body. I'm going to stop right there because I'm going to come this way on the arm. I'm going to come around here. Just kind of establish where it's going to go. Same thing with this one. So So these are going to hang down off the bottom of the arm, hang down off the bottom of this arm. Maybe even come out past the body a little bit. Then I'll come back to the body and continue to follow this flow on around. Don't go counter to the flow. Some will be a little longer, some will be a little shorter. And of course, on the inside, this isn't going to have a whole lot because it's going to stay pretty tight to the body coming up this way. It's just all raggedy. After you get your lines established, come in here and color that inside of the head. Remember, a medium gray. Try and keep it all even, and then do the top half really dark and along the edges. Do that on both of them. Got that top half and along the edge gone dark with it, and then I'll do the same thing over here. This one I'm going to go a little bit darker down in this bottom corner because it's longer, and then go really dark on the top. The edge. So that one's going to be just a little bit different than the other one. Those filled in, we'll put the wrinkles around the neck, and then I don't know if we'll have time to color in the head light gray or not, but we're getting towards the end here. Let's just move back over here, follow this line here, follow it along, bring a little wrinkle in, just come in and put another one underneath it. That's where the body is, so got a little wrinkle here. Come along here, put a little wrinkle right there, a little wrinkle coming off of there. This is the top of the arm here, don't confuse it with what you're doing. Just a couple little wrinkles. Move over to this side. We're not going to need to put any wrinkles on this side because there's not enough of it to even see. Just follow this one around, following this edge right here. A wrinkle here, a wrinkle there, make it maybe just slightly longer. This is where the body comes in right there. And I might just put one more just for fun. That's optional. Doesn't matter whether you put it on there or not. And I'm going to say that's good for today. We're going to stop right there today. If you get that far, life is good. We will finish these up on